On Sunday, we will see the Chargers take on the Kansas City Chiefs for the second time this year on back-to-back Sunday Night Football events. Now, earlier in the year, we saw the Chargers fall to the Chiefs 27-24 in a very close game. And as we currently sit about to enter this game on Sunday Night Football, I want to do what we do every single week and talk about some of the keys to the Chargers' victory this week and just kind of the preview to this week's game. So if you enjoy this content, please like and subscribe. It truly means the world to me. But let's not waste any more of your time. Let's go and get right into things. First things first, let's kind of get to some of the stuff before some of the keys to victory here. Chargers currently sit at 5-4 on the year, just right outside of the playoffs, currently at the 8th seed. At the 8th seed, you're still in the hunt clearly, but you're in a position where you're currently sitting right outside, and it's going to give you some more motivation to get back inside because you're like, the team's kind of freaking out because they're out. But it's also going to put a little bit more pressure on you to win some of these games because the worry that if you lose these games, you might fall further out of the race. But at 5-4, Chargers are still a positive team and in a pretty good position, especially for how beat up and how not great they have played so far this year. In the first matchup, as mentioned, Chargers lose it 27-24. But we did see some good performances, such as Justin Herbert having 334 yards and 3 touchdowns as well as an interception. But it was the same week that he would have his injury. And we also would see Mike Williams have 113 yards and a touchdown. And Austin Ekeler would have a total of 94 yards across rushing and receiving. So 3 really good performances on the offense from the first time that these two teams met. Now, a win this week will erase the tiebreaker that the Chiefs currently have, which would help improve the chances of the Chargers winning the division and would put them in a really good position to make the playoffs. Now, a loss, on the other hand, would put the Chargers in a position where it's almost impossible to win the division, practically having a 3 gap between nearly 4 because all the losses. You'd have to be a better record than the Chiefs, catch back up to the Chiefs and have a better record than them to still win the division overall. And a loss could also push you further out of the race for the playoffs and just really drain this team of, the hopes of making it feel like it's too big of a hill to climb. But let's talk about some of the actual keys to victory this week. The number one thing is going to be the Chargers offense needs to find a way to keep up with the Chiefs offense. And yes, I say keep up because the Chiefs offense has been great all year. On the other hand, the Chargers have struggled immensely with scoring, averaging 22.2 points per game throughout the whole year. And with 22 being the average for most seasons, the Chargers are just average. And this offense, on paper, doesn't look like an average offense. So they're definitely performing below expectations. Now, on the other side of things, currently the Chiefs are averaging 30 points per game through the whole season. That's a whole touchdown and 2-point conversion average above the Chargers, which is going to mean that the Chargers are obviously going to overperform to be able to win this game and to be able to keep up with the Kansas City Chiefs. If any game is the game for the Chargers to get back on track on offense, it is going to be this week's game. There is a chance that Keenan Allen and Mike Williams could return this week. Now, the likelihood of them both returning, not high. Likelihood of them both returning at full speed, also not likely. I think at least one, if not both of these guys will be on snap counts entering the game if they are to play. But even adding Mike or Keenan would be a huge boost to how this offense can produce. And Mike Williams consistently has really good games against the Kansas City Chiefs. So it would be great to see him return to this team. And with the ability to get everyone back, and potentially Gerald Everett could return, we're not quite sure what's going on with him. With the chance of everyone returning, you could start to see this offense kind of get things working and get back on the right track and the right side of things. No matter how great the Chargers defense does do at slowing down the Chiefs offense, the Chargers offense and Justin Herbert is going to have to find a way to get some traction because no matter how great the defense is, the Chiefs will find a way to score touchdowns. That's just something that they will consistently do no matter how great of a defense you have. So the Chargers are going to have to find a way to keep up with them to be able to stay in this game long term. Now, the next thing I want to talk about here is going to be slowing down that Chiefs offense. Yes, you need the offense of the Chargers to be able to keep up and put up points, but as much as you can do to slow down the Chiefs is going to be a great thing and a huge help towards getting this game into the win column. As mentioned, the Chiefs are averaging 30 points per game, which is number 1 in the entire league. At 30 points per game. And if you honestly look, they don't have a ton of weapons, at least compared to previous years. Yes, you have Patrick Mahomes, but outside of that, there's not a whole lot going for them. And a lot of their current positions have players in injury reports and are questionable for playing, and a ton of different things like that. So it's not about, who is on this team that's making them so good, but how they're able to produce and work together. Now, the good thing about this is the fact that the Chargers defense is, built pretty well to be able to slow down and stop this Chiefs offense. You have guys in Derwin James and Michael Davis who are big enough, have length, and are fast enough to be able to keep up and match up well with Travis Kelce. I mean, time after time, we've seen Derwin James have big games against Travis Kelce and the Chiefs and have body slams against them, as we saw in the second week of the year. So you have guys that can match up very well there. You also have linebackers in Drew Tranquill and Kenneth Murray that are going to be able to do extremely well in the run game, which is going to be able to slow down the Chiefs, who currently rank 21st in the entire league. So they do lean pretty heavy on the passing game. You could slow them down with Kenneth Murray and Drew Tranquill, and they're both also fast enough to be able to spy Patrick Mahomes pretty well and limit his ability to get yards on the ground himself. But with all of that being said, you also have Asante Samuel Jr., who is a very, very good coverage guy and can stop whomever is, or slow down whomever is starting. The biggest factor in this is some of the questionable players on the injury report for the Kansas City Chiefs. Currently, Juju Smith-Schuster is listed as questionable. The wide receiver one, who has been pretty solid all year round, I believe it's with a concussion, so he is questionable. You also see Marquez Valdes-Scantling as questionable. Those is the number 1 wide receiver and the number 2 wide receiver. It's likely at least one of these two will play, if not both. But if these two were both happen to miss this game, the remaining wide receivers for this Kansas City Chiefs team would be Sky Moore, Justin Watson, and Kadarius Toney. With some luck, if this were to happen for the Chiefs offense, which would be lucky for the Chargers defense, the Chiefs would have to be working with pretty much what the offense of the Chargers have been working with for the past few weeks here, and that alone could be enough to slow down that Chiefs offense so that the Chargers don't have such a high hill to climb, especially with how poorly the offense of the Chargers has been doing so far this year. But Kelce alone can get you multiple touchdowns. Kelce alone can blow out another team, get a ton of yards. And although Derwin does match up well, Kelce will likely be the key to the Chiefs' success on the offense side of things. They're going to target him a lot. No matter whom else is healthy and whom else is playing, he's going to be a key piece to that Chiefs offense, as he's been throughout the entire of the year. So the Chargers are going to have to be able to double team him and cover him very, very well as hopefully preventing the scrambling ability and rushing ability of Patrick Mahomes with a spy such as Drew Tranquill, who I think would likely be better at, but also Kenneth Murray. And, the Chiefs, as mentioned, do lean a little bit heavier on that passing game. 21st in rushing yards for their rushing attack, but they're still pretty explosive, and especially in the red zone. They're doing an incredible job at splitting those reps, splitting those touchdowns between rushing and between passing, even though they have a lower tier rushing game based on the yards. So that is the second factor in the Chargers' victory here, and the second factor in the game is slowing down the Chiefs' offense in as many ways as possible, primarily trying to double team and slow down Travis Kelce while also preventing the scramblability of Patrick Mahomes is probably going to lead to a lot of good things for this Chargers team. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about here is the fact that it's going to be another tough matchup for the Chargers offensive line. Now, yes, the Chargers offensive line has been great all year, but you still got to be a little bit worried when you look at some of these teams that they've faced so far, and some of the teams are going to be remaining. This Chiefs defense that we also saw in week 2 has a really good package, whether it is interior, outside D-line, as well as rushing. They have a really good blitz package. I think it's in 0, and they do a really good job at getting the interior D-line and the linebackers through open gaps, pretty much for free rushes where no one can touch them at all. But they also do have a really good, strong pass rush with guys like Chris Jones and Frank Clark, who can both come off the edge, go inside, and cause all sorts of problems for a Chargers team that has a lot of injuries, and we're not sure if Trey Pippen's going to be able to play. It seems like he's on the up and up, which would be great, but if he can't play, you're going to once again see backups on both ends of the tackles position for the Chargers. Now, the Chiefs have been really good. If you look at them on paper, really there's no huge names that pop off screen, especially in the edge rushing and in the pass game. There's nothing that incredibly pops out at you. But they have done a great job at still finding a way to get sacks. They currently sit at 8th in the entire league in sacks with 27. Nearly 3 sacks per game. Top 10, nearly 3 sacks per game is crazy high, but the Chargers are number 1 in the entire league for least sacks allowed with 13, which is at 1.4 per game. So a dramatic difference between these two, and you hope that the Chargers side of things is where it will dominate, and they'll continue to be right around that 1.4 range. But we've seen that this Chiefs team can find a way to get multiple sacks, so hopefully this Chargers offense can continue to do very, very well, but it's definitely not going to be an easy test this week for that Chargers O-line. Now, the Chargers passing game has been pretty good all year long, but it really needs to bring some heat this week. And that's the next topic I'm going to cover here, is bringing heat in that Chargers passing game. Currently, the Chargers are 9th in the entire league in total passing yards, and with the chance for Keenan Allen to return and Mike Williams, we could see that definitely improve dramatically. But if the team can bring in some deep ball presence and use guys like Mike Williams to get downfield and use that 50-50 ball, it's going to be able to make this Chiefs defense really spread out a little bit and open up the offense a lot, even on the short routes that we all know Joe Lombardi loves. Speaking of Joe Lombardi in this offense, I have a whole full 50-minute video on what's kind of going wrong with the Chargers offense and how to fix it. Please go check that out. It took a lot of time and it was a very, very good video. But if the team can use guys like Mike Williams downfield or even Keenan Allen to find deep routes, it's going to open up the offense and take some pressure out of the box. Once you take pressure out of the box, then you can lean on guys like Austin Ekeler and use draw plays or just straight up normal runs until he, gets some good runs here, and now they got to try to bring guys back into the box. And now you just do it again. Now you use your long range, you space some people out, you use your medium and your short and Austin Ekeler until they have to come back up, and once they bring too much pressure up, you dink and dodge them a little bit here, and then you use that big long pass. So just getting some of these players back is definitely going to be a big factor in opening up this offense a little bit. But use these pieces. Mike Williams is great at the deep ball and 50-50 balls. Use him to allow them to open up a little bit and not be so freely up in the box loading it. And now Austin Ekeler will have an opportunity. Now Keenan Allen will have his opportunity to get some yards. And then when they bring it back in, find a way to push it back out. You need to use this Chargers passing game to open up lanes, not only for the passing game itself, but also for other forms of scoring, for the rushing attack, for the short, for the medium, and for the long. Find a way to use all 4 of those areas of the field offensively to go down and score. That's something that I feel like has been missing. We've pretty much completely eliminated the deep ball, and now you only have 3 things that you have to worry about. It's going to take a lot from the offense, and when Austin Ekeler's not doing good because the box is loaded, because you're not worried about the b-ball, now you really only have 2 options for the offense to do well. Find a way to get all 4 pieces of the Chargers offense back in working shape and get it all working correctly. Now, this game could be a must-win game. If we're all being honest with ourselves, it could be the difference between being in or being out of playoffs. And I know it's way too early, and no matter if you lose this game or not, you can still be in or be out based on the remaining games. But there is a chance that this game right here could be the difference maker in the Chargers' chances of winning the division or fighting for a wild card spot. And if you lose another game down the road or whatever, you could be out. Losing this game and then dropping another one, and the Chiefs drop, a few later, and now you're tied up. And since the Chiefs won this and the one previously, they win the division, you could potentially fall out of the playoffs, out of the wild card spot, period. Winning this game does have a huge factor long term, but it doesn't have the only factor. So let's talk about a couple other things long term, not only about this game, and then we're going to go into predictions for this game. Actually, let's do it the other way around. Let's talk predictions for this game, and then we're going to move to other things. So, first prediction is, I'm not sure on Mike Williams or Keenan Allen's return. I have a feeling that Mike Williams will be playing, but I don't want to make a prediction on him. I will say he consistently has a really good game against this Chiefs team, so if he is going to be on a full snap count, he will likely have a good game. Justin Herbert, I expect to have 250 yards, not quite 300, because I don't know if both these wide receivers are going to be in a full snap count, and that's going to be enough to pull away from Herbert reaching that 300. I'm going to say 250. I'm going to say 2 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. That's a pretty solid game, if we're being honest. And that would put Herbert, get him some confidence back, and show that this offense can still score a little bit. I'm going to say Austin Ekeler throughout the entire game is going to have 100 yards and at least 1 touchdown. Defensively, I think defense can do really good and get 2 turnovers, whether that be a fumble or interception. I'm not quite sure, and I think the special teams will have a really good game as well, especially after seeing the punt block in last week's game. Now, the prediction for this week is going to be a 27-21 loss for the Chargers. I know that's not a good sign. Now you fall to 5-5. Now your playoff hopes are definitely starting to dwindle a little bit. And I'll be honest, I've been a very optimistic Chargers fan for the most part. I think I've only said the Chargers were going to lose 2 games through these key matchup predictions so far this year. And, they've lost 4. So I've been pretty optimistic. I will say, though, I think the Chargers will lose this. I think the Chiefs will do a pretty good job at still keeping their offense going, getting 27 when they're averaging 30. So the Chargers hold them slightly below. But I think the Chargers offense won't quite get their full footing. Even if Keenan and Mike return at a pretty high level, I don't think they're going to get their footing enough to score a bunch of touchdowns. So that's my prediction. I think the Chargers will lose this game. But let's talk the remaining season. Truly, I think, including the Chiefs game, the Chargers at most can lose about 3 games before falling out of the playoffs. With 8 games remaining in the season, a 4-4 record would slot you in at 9-8. I don't think 9-8 is good enough to get you into the playoffs this year. It's another tight race for the playoffs, especially in the AFC. And I think 10-6 is going to be enough to get you in. And I think it's going to be similar to the Raiders last year, where that it's going to be that final game of the year that is just really important to make sure that this team will make it into the playoffs. Hopefully this year it's going to once again be in the hands of the Chargers whether they make it or not some other team. But it's going to be a rough road ahead and a lot of stress. But let's talk about the remaining games. If you can only lose 3, which means you're 5-3, slightly above 500, which, we all thought this team was going to be a lot better. But that's still pretty solid. That would put the team at, 10-7. That's a pretty solid record still. The remaining games are Chiefs, Cardinals, Raiders, Dolphins, Titans, Colts, Rams, and Broncos. There are some pretty tough teams in there. And I'm not going to be giving you my predictions for the scores on those because I want to save that so that you guys, that can be part of my future key matchups and stuff. But I will say, I think it's definitely possible that this team loses 4 out of those games, which I don't think would be enough to get this team in. But I will say 5-3 is definitely very plausible. And I will say 5-3 would be my prediction, and there will be a little bit of hope and a little bit of bias in that. But I think 4-4 is enough to knock you out. But what do you guys think? What do you guys think about the Chiefs game? Do you think the Chargers are going to win? Do you think they're going to lose? And how long is it going to take for this offense to sort of get back on track? If you enjoy this content, please like and subscribe. And as always, I hope it taught something today. I hope it made you smile. I hope it made you laugh. That's something that's really important to me. Affects most of the day in a great way. And as always, you guys all be safe out there.